The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis & Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis & Lipan are one of New York's largest independently owned insurance agencies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian-American food since 1922, and Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to begin today's regular town board meeting. It's April 1st, no April Fool joke, 2019, 7 p.m. And would you all please rise and join Councilwoman Jennifer Switzer in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before I begin the regular agenda, we had some special people pass recently, and I would like to talk about Ron Lee and Chet. First of all, our friend Ron Montesi, as we all know, passed. And he and his wonderful wife of 52 years have been pillars of this community. And with Rosemary by his side, he's become a person of many talents and accomplishments that they both did together for our greater community. I mean, for example, he developed a local business. He was asked by New York State to be a special assistant for Adirondack Affairs, acting as a liaison between the DEC, the APA, and municipal entities and the people involved. And he did a good job. He's deeply involved with making many fine things happen in our beautiful community. He worked on so many things. I'm not going to mention them all, but the Bloom Festival, hiking and biking trails. He was very active with municipal governance, being on the Warren County Board, the Town of Queensbury Planning Board, the Town Board, and he was even Town Supervisor. And he asked me to be his deputy. Always bipartisan. His goal was to make our community a better place, and he did not allow politics to get in the way. In his spare time, he assessed vintage cars. He knew and he loved cars. He gave me a ride in his Pence Mustang, and I got to see how fast it would go down Haviland Road. Can't arrest him now. He knew and loved cars, and he assessed my 1929 Model A Ford. And of course, I had to take him out to the Aviator, he and Rosemary, but that was well worth it because usually he gets many times that to assess a car. Lee Brown. Lee Brown, he a talented athlete, especially with baseball, but he brought many talents to our area, especially when he worked for Adirondack Community College in the early 70s as the activities director. He coordinated many student functions. I got to know Lee then because I was a student at ACC in those days. And I saw Jackie at the wake, and she remembered when I was on the student senate at ACC, and she says, "You've always been in government." But he was a counselor at SUNY Adirondack, as we call it now. He then went on to the director of admissions. He worked with many community endeavors, and he loved working with young people. He was a big impression on all of us, and me included, a strong member of our community. And Chet South. Everybody knows Chet South. Queensbury will sorely miss Chet. His compassion for and dedication to our greater community was unparalleled. Chet's many and meaningful accomplishments will be felt eternally. Chet contributed to the nation. He served time in the armed forces, and he dedicated 66 of his 88 years to be a volunteer member of the Queensbury Central Volunteer Fire Company. We owe these three fine individuals a lot. They're not easily replaced. Because they did so much, their existence will be eternal. We will miss Ron, Lee, and Chet. And would you please join me in holding a moment of silence in memory of Ron, Lee, and Chet. Thank you. And we thank them for all their efforts. Next on the agenda, we have 4 items in the Queensbury Board of Health, but first we must move into the Queensbury Board of Health. Is there a motion to move into the Queensbury Board of Health?
So moved.
All right, moved by Councilwoman Atherton, seconded by Councilman Ferrone. All those in favor of moving into the Queensbury Board of Health, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. We're now into the Board of Health. Item 1.1, please, Karen.
Sure, it's a public hearing, an Ogden family irrevocable trust application for sanitary sewer disposal variance.
Okay. So, this is the Ogden family. They own 2 Hall Road. Actually, it's Hall Road Extension. They have Rosinski Hall Architecture as their agent. And what they'd like to do is take out the septic system that's currently there, which is failing and antiquated. It's basically a cesspool. And they'd like to put in 3 new 1,500 gallon holding tanks for a total of $4,500 gallons of capacity in lieu of the sewage disposal system for a seasonal camp located on 2 Hall Road. Is there anybody, an agent, that wishes to speak to this application before the town board tonight? Is there any present? Yes, ma'am, please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Pelton. I'm an employee at Rosinski Hall Architecture, and I was with Ethan today when we went out to the site to design it.
Okay, and some of us were there at the site visit, and you did a good job explaining the very small lot, the very confined quarters, and there really isn't a plan B for this piece of property.
No.
Is there anything you wish to add to anything I've said?
No.
Is there any question from the town board? Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this resolution tonight? Seeing no member of the public, you may return to your seat. Thank you, Mackenzie. All right. Is there a motion to approve then? I'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Karen. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to the sewage disposal variance application of the Ogden family? All right. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Ferrone, seconded by
Sure, yes.
Councilwoman Atherton, roll call vote on this, please. Karen?
Okay, Councilperson Atherton?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Switzer?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes. You're all set. All right, the second application for sanitary sewage disposal variance, Karen.
Public hearing, Joe Monahan's application for sanitary sewage disposal variance.
All right. This is located at 3 Fielding Place, right on the corner of Fielding Place and Cleverdale Road. I don't know why it's 3. None of us did. We did a site visit there today. So Joe Monahan is the applicant, and he wants to put in a new on-site wastewater treatment system to replace an existing cesspool, with the proposed system to be needing 2 variances. One is a leaching system to be 89 foot from the well in lieu of the required 100-foot setback, and dispersal location to be 5 foot from the dwelling in lieu of the required 20-foot setback. Agent Eric Murdoch, I believe, is here. I saw him here. We met him earlier. Eric, would you come forward, please? So this system, which is a 3-bedroom system, Eric has designed this so that it is going to include, you can sit down, Eric, a Clarus Fusion 450 for pre-treatment. And I think a 450 will normally do up to 4 bedrooms, and this is a 3-bedroom place, and the 750 would be, I think, 7 bedrooms. And what you're proposing here, in addition to the pre-treatment system on this piece of property, is to do a raised bed with a dosed system, and it would be a sand bed of at least 2 feet of sand. There is a high water table in the area, and so that's an overview of the system. Eric, is there? Please identify yourself for the record, and is there anything you wish to add to what I said?
Yeah, so I'm Eric Murdoch. I'm with Onsite Engineering. I'd like to say that due to the small size of the site and the proximity to the property lines and such, we decided to recommend the installation of this enhanced treatment unit to pre-treat the water. And because the dispersal area is limited in size because of the small size of the site, we decided to put in this, recommend this bottomless sand filter. And we're using time to equalize dosing to balance out the peak flows. So we really feel that we've done the best job that we can in treating and dispersing the water at this very small site. And this is to replace a cesspool, so it's a much improvement to the property.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I just want to thank you for digging my car out of the mud today.
Very welcome.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to this?
I have a couple of questions
All
about
right.
the design.
Eric, if you'll return to your seat, and madam, would you please come forward? Please have a seat and state your name and ask your questions, and I'll try and get answers for you.
Okay, Kimberly Chamberlain. And I live close to the site, so I'm familiar with the site, and it is very constrained. My question is, how many gallons is
Ma'am,
the actual holding?
Kimberly?
I need to
Yes,
ask
you gotta direct your
How
question.
many gallons is the actual tank?
For the holding,
Yes.
for the 450, I'll find that out for you. Any other question?
Well, I was told today it was 500, and I just want to compare that with the one that just got approved just before this, how many gallons that one was.
Well, he's installing a 750-gallon pump tank, according to one of the details that Councilman Ferrone is showing me.
Okay, I mean, I'm all in favor of improving what it is, but
Yeah.
my question is the design of it.
I'll get more details on that for you when I'll ask Eric to return.
Okay.
and have them give us more details about the gallons and things like that.
Perfect.
Okay?
And, okay.
If there's anything else you want me to
I
ask?
just wanted to verify the gallons of the previous one that was just approved,
4,500.
4,500, okay,
But those were holding tanks.
But that was different system.
Different system.
okay.
All right. This is different. All right. Thank you, Kimberly. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Please come forward. State your name for the record.
Sean Laranca.
Sean?
Fielding Place.
Excuse me, Sean,
John,
S-E-A-N?
John.
Oh, like me. All right, John.
I think, as Kimberly said, we're all in favor of this. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
My concern is, I'd like to know where this well is, because I've been living there 15 years. There are no wells anywhere close.
All
We
right.
we all draw water from the lake,
Yeah.
and I think that this, could potentially be a problem moving forward if someone else was going to put an application in for something and there was this supposed well. And I know that that's, they're looking for a variance for a well.
Yeah.
Do
I'll
you know
ask
where
him.
the well is?
Yeah, he does show it on the prints, but it'd be better for him to come up and explain it.
Okay,
That's his job.
okay.
Is there any other questions?
That was my
All right,
main
I will
concern.
ask him and we'll try and get a satisfactory answer where that
Thank you.
well's located. Okay. Any other member of the public wish to come forward and speak to this septic variance application?
I have one more thing,
Okay, come forward.
and it's not about for us, but
Well, speak into the microphone,
Okay.
please.
this holding tank, the location of it,
It's not a holding
I'm sorry,
tank.
the leach tank, leach field? What-
Well, it has a pumping tank and it has a Fusion 450. The
Okay,
Fusion 450 pre-treats it, and I'll have Eric explain this to you, and he'll tell the gallons and how it pre-treats it. And we've run into these systems before. This pre-treatment is top of the line a septic system.
I'm honestly not concerned about that, more for their parking, because I was told that this can't drive or you can't park on that.
No, you can't park on these, but there's no intent to park on these because this is going under their deck.
Under the deck, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine, because I had heard that there was gonna be something in an area where they park their cars, and I'd be concerned for them
Yeah.
that they wouldn't have any parking.
No, we don't want any more cars stuck.
Okay, that's it.
All
I
right, John,
promise.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the public on this septic variance application? Seeing none, Eric, would you please come forward? So Eric, would you kind of explain the gallons and what's going on here with that?
Good question. Yeah, it's very confusing. There's a volume that you typically have in a septic tank. And then when you get into these enhanced treatment units, they're not described by the volume of the tank, they're described by the daily flow that they can treat. So this Fusion is actually, it's rated to treat 450 gallons per day, which would be sufficient to treat the wastewater from a 4-bedroom home. So this being a 3-bedroom home, it's well suited for this, its application. It's been sized appropriately. This tank is roughly 1,000 gallons, but it's rated to treat up to 450.
Okay. And the proximity of the well?
So the drawings do not actually show a drinking water well, and I was unaware that there was a well. When I submitted the application for the variance, I didn't include a request for a variance for a drinking water well because we didn't believe that was the case. It was news to me. I thought that somebody at the town knew something I didn't. And that's why I went out there early today to really canvass the area in search of that. I do believe that as it was discussed earlier, this dwelling, as well as many in the area, pull their water from the lake. And as far as I'm aware, there's no drinking water supply wells within 100 feet of this septic system.
Okay, well, that's what the neighbors said. They didn't know of any well
Yeah,
either.
so,
Well, in any event, should there be a well that's 89 feet from here, this board will consider that in their deliberation. So, Kimberly and John, is that answer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm just concerned about that there is no drinking water well or any other type of well anywhere there.
Yeah, and you're not parking on this, it's going under the deck, under the back, and there's no parking anywhere near this. Okay, so, all right, so those concerns have been addressed. Any further questions from the board?
How does that get rectified then, with the fact that there's no well?
Yeah, that's my question. I was gonna
The
look at legal
resolution.
counsel
Yeah,
for that.
and I was, before any motion was made, I was gonna ask, I don't know where that came from, I have the faintest idea where it came from, but if there is no well, then I don't think the board should consider granting a variance for the leaching system to be 89 feet from the well.
Well, wonder if Dave Hatton knows of the existence of a well, and we didn't address the variance, then they gotta come back. So my thinking is, if we give them the variance from the well, there should turn out to be a well where Dave Hatton thinks there's one, it's already covered.
I mean, the board would be adopting a resolution that somewhere, somehow, sometime, somebody could look at it and say, apparently there's a well here because the Queensbury Town Board, acting as the local Board of Health on April 1st, 2019, adopted a resolution referring to the well. I mean, I was about to look at the map, this is not really, we're straying a little bit from my activities, but I don't remember seeing a well on the map.
It's not.
So I guess I'm gonna ask, where if the applicant says there's no well, or the applicant's agent says there's no well, the neighbors, several neighbors have commented, they have not commented about the existence of well, there's no well depicted on maps, am I right about that?
Yes?
Right.
Nobody can
So if
find
there's
one.
no well depicted on maps, as town council, we would not endorse or support the town board adopting a resolution that says, in these words, leaching system to be 89 feet from the well.
All right, what's the board think? We ought to remove that first one, and we'll just give a variance for the location to be 5 feet from the dwelling?
Yes, and then I guess if it happens to have a well, if Dave thinks that Dave
Well, I was
thinks it
gonna
does,
say-
they'd have to come back.
Would we be better off just pushing this to the next board meeting so that we could question Dave on whether or not?
He's got the stuff right there on the site right now.
Yeah, he's ready, right?
You know, it's on the trailer.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I think you want to get it done.
Okay, so
Yeah.
2 weeks would be a hardship.
we're anxious.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with us then just taking out the first variance since there doesn't appear to be a well?
And I did not ask for that variance.
Is that all right with the board then?
Okay.
Okay. So, removing the first variance, leaching field to be 89 feet from the well in lieu of the 100-foot setback is removed. So we have one variance, which is the dispersal location be 5 foot from the dwelling in lieu of the required 20-foot setback. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Atherton, seconded by
Second?
Councilwoman Switzer. Roll call vote on sewage disposal variance application for Joe Monahan?
Sure. Councilperson Ferrone,
Yes.
Switzer,
Yes.
Straugh,
Yeah,
Atherton.
Yes.
good luck. Okay, we have two other items before the Board of Health, and they are to set public hearings. So the first item, 1.3, please, Karen.
It's a resolution setting public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of 10 Dunham's Bay Road LLC.
Okay. 10 of Dunham's Bay Road is the former boat place. And they wish to put 6,000 gallon capacity holding tank in to service their septic needs. They would replace the existing pump on the building with a pump station and such pump station to be located at a distance of 28 feet 7 inches from Lake George in lieu of the required 50-foot setback on property located at 10 Dunham's Bay in the town of Queensbury. And this is to set a public hearing on April 15th, which will be held here beginning at 7 p.m. just like tonight. So this is to set a public hearing for April 15th. Is there a motion to set this public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Farrell,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Switzer. Roll call vote on setting this public hearing for the sewage disposal of variance application for 10 Dunham's Bay Road, April 15th.
Councilperson Switzer?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Okay. April 15th it is, public hearing. And the last item for the Board of Health, 1.4, please, Karen.
Resolution setting public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Thomas and Mary Beth Babcock.
Okay, Tom and Mary Beth Babcock own a residence on 15 Chestnut Road, lot number 289.13-1-12, and they are asking for the following variances to replace an existing holding tank system and put in an absorption system, and they are asking for 6 variances. Variance 1, absorption field to be 4 foot from the west property line in lieu of the required 10-foot setback. Second variance, absorption field to be 2 foot from the southern property line instead of the required 10-foot setback. Third variance, distribution box to be 4 foot from the south property line instead of the required 10-foot setback. Fourth variance is the force main to be 4 foot from the south property line instead of the required 10-foot setback. Fifth variance, absorption field to be 68.4 feet from the neighboring well in line instead of the required 100-foot setback. And sixth variance, absorption bed to be located partially under the driveway. So this is to set a public hearing, April 15th. It'll be right here, 7 p.m. Tom Hutchins is the engineer and the agent for the applicant. Is there a motion to set the public hearing for this sewage disposal variance application of Thomas and Mary Beth Babcock?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Atherton,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Farrell. Roll call vote on setting the public hearing on this.
Councilperson Stroud?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Switzer?
Yes.
All right. That's it for the Queensbury Board of Health. Is there a motion to move out of the Queensbury Board of Health?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Switzer,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. All those in favor of moving out of the Queensbury Board of Health, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're out of the Board of Health. We now have a public hearing. It's a continuation of a public hearing. And Karen, would you tell the public about it, please?
Sure. Continuation of public hearing, local law to amend Queensbury Town Code, Chapter 179, zoning to change zoning on property owned by Kabricki John and Sons, Inc. from moderate density residential MDR to rural residential 5 acres RR5.
Okay. This has been going on for some time now. And it is to rezone a piece of property currently owned by Kubricki, in brief, that's what we call it, so that the current mining operation there can have an access out to Ridge Road instead of using the very residential Dream Lake Road. So we currently have the following conditions, and I will read them to the public so the public is aware that, and this has been a long time coming. Condition number 1, that Fort Miller Company shall construct a road connecting their current mining operation and Ridge Road using the property in question. 2, the road shall be their primary road for their mining operations and any other related traffic. 3, that the Dream Lake Road access shall be gated and closed and only be used in cases of emergency. And the 4th condition, signs indicating that mine access is only on Ridge Road shall be placed on Bay Road to the north and south of the entrance of Dream Lake Road for a period of at least 1 year. Bay Road is a county road, And Kevin Hajo said as long as the signs conform with the highway standards, that's okay. Fifth condition, that the above shall occur, and there's an A and B to this. A, within 6 months of the final planning board approval for the expansion of the mining operation on
16 months.
16 months, what did I say?
16 months, thank you. And any of the tax map numbers, 279.-1-48, 279.-1-72, 279.-1-73, or 279.-1-59.2. And B, prior to the commencement of any expansion not requiring planning board approval on any such tax parcels, whichever comes first. And the sixth condition, the applicants and Kubricki, John & Sons Incorporated written consent to the rezoning and the above conditions shall be filed in the town clerk's office within 10 days of adoption of this resolution. The public hearing on this is still open, but I would like to read an email that came in. And this comes from the Holdings, Janice and Andrew Holding. Dear Miss Barber, Janice and I are in Arkansas this evening and unable to attend the public hearing on the Kubricki property. We would greatly appreciate it if you could read the following mail into the records during that public hearing. Thank you. To the town board and town attorney of Queensbury. We would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for the time and effort you put into the conditions written into the resolution for the rezoning of the Kubricki parcel. When Fort Miller files is written consent to these conditions, it will represent the first time since 2014 that the public can feel the town board has listened to its concerns, as well as the first time Fort Miller has been willing to assure its verbal guarantees in writing. We are looking forward to the successful completion of this project. Sincerely, Janice and Andrew Holding. Now, the public hearing is still open. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak to this enactment to amend our zoning, to change the zoning of property owned by Kubricki, John & Sons from moderate density residential MDR to rural residential 5-acre RR5?
Just quickly, thank you, Claudia Bramer, attorney for the Holdings. As you read tonight, they're not able to attend, but I wanted to come as well and just thank the board on their behalf for your due diligence and taking your time to carefully put this all in writing so that we could see it in advance. I really appreciate that myself as well. The only question I have is to ask if the applicant was able to reach out to Kubricki and make sure that they were going to agree to the consent. That was still kind of up in the air. So that's my only question, and I'm sure that will be addressed tonight. Thank you.
All right, I'll ask. Okay. Any other member of the public wish to speak to this? Yes, ma'am?
Hello, I'm Kathy Monroe, Red House Lane, which is off Dream Lake Road. And I don't know, I just had a thought about like emergency use for the road. And I don't know if that needs to be clarified, what counts as an emergency. I mean, obviously, a human life, that's not negotiable, that's an emergency. But, you know, if something happens and they can't use the new road and they have to use Dream Lake Road for temporarily for mining trucks, that could be an issue of residents see trucks coming down Dream Lake Road.
I will. I'll ask around, see what we can dig up here.
Just FYI, because
it's not abused.
Right, but I'm just saying if, we say it's just for emergencies, but you see a truck coming down, well, something happened to the road and they couldn't use it, there will be calls probably to Queensbury that, oh, they're using the road. Just a thought I had about that.
Okay, we'll try and make you, accommodate you and get some kind of an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? To this? All right, would the agent for the applicant like to come forward? And the applicant too, you're welcome to come up if you want. All right, John, I got two questions from the audience. One is, have you talked to Kubricki in reference to getting his property rezoned and you people gaining some kind of control over it so that you can build the road on it?
So we already had control because we have a lease agreement and they signed the application when the process started. But we do have their written consent to submit. I can give it to council.
Yes, good.
So we took care of that before today.
All right. Thank you, John. And the other question, emergency.
It's hard to pin down, what could be an emergency and, it's a fire, an accident, something that blocks the road and creates a dangerous situation. A worker gets hurt.
Is that one of those, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it?
Well, an emergency is an emergency. We're not trying to get away with anything. Everything that is a condition was always been proposed by the applicant. It's all in writing as it should be, but all along the applicant came to you and said, even though this has been here for 70 years, they want to propose to spend hundreds of thousands to put in a new road, which isn't something that usually happens. The people that bought their homes on Dream Lake Road bought on the only access road to a sand and gravel pit that had been there way before most of them. And the applicant came to you and said, we've got a better plan to go out to Ridge Road and it'll take the traffic away from the residential neighbors. And, and still there were people that were concerned, which is hard to understand. So we've been saying the same thing all along.
Well, and if they abuse the conditions, an emergency, there's a reasonable person standard, I believe, involved here for emergency. And if we felt that the applicant was abusing it at some point in the future, we would have the ability to evoke some kind of action. Counsel?
No question. I don't think it's susceptible of a precise definition. I think, generally speaking, an emergency is something that requires access by emergency service personnel. There are licensed, certified emergency service personnel. But if somebody is having a heart attack and somebody who's not an emergency service personnel tries to save them by driving a car down the road, our advice would to the town board, if you seek to enforce what you perceive to be a violation of the condition, is that would not be an appropriate exercise of your enforcement discretion.
But if it was abused, we would have enforcement.
Absolutely.
Tools to use.
As a potential violation of a condition of approval.
Yeah. So.
We agree with that.
All right. Any questions from town board members?
No.
And any last minute questions from the public? All right, I'll close the public hearing. Town board, you want to move this along? How about a motion to enact local law of 2019 to amend Queensbury Town Code Chapter 175 zoning to change zoning of property owned by Kubricki, John & Sons from moderate density residential to rural residential 5 acres.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Ferone.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Switzer. Roll call vote on this, please.
Councilperson Atherton?
Yes.
Barone?
Yes.
Spitzer?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to make one comment though. I'm not, it's past. It's just about Jenkinsville Road that we're not gonna forget about Jenkinsville.
Can I comment to that?
Sure.
Councilman Appleton, we talked to some of the truck drivers, and none of them are even remotely considering going down Jenkinsville.
Okay, that's interesting.
So none of the traffic coming from the pit should be going down Jenkinsville.
Okay, thank you.
We follow up on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we have 2 hearings. They're not public hearings, they're hearings. There is a difference. 3.1, please, Karen.
Okay, it's a hearing, Bay Road Self-Storage LLC's application for a variance waiver request from sanitary sewer connection requirement set forth in Town Code Chapter 136, sewers and sewage disposal.
Okay, Bay Road Self-Storage has applied to this board for a a waiver from town code for an exemption from the town's connection requirements to connect its property located on Bay Road, adjacent to Duke Industrial Park, to the Queensbury Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District, with the understanding that any waiver approval would be based on a self-storage use. Any redevelopment of the property in the future with a different use would negate the waiver. Okay, and we are having a hearing on this, and would you please introduce yourselves and add anything you would like to add to what I just described the topic as being?
Thank you, John. I'm Dennis McElroy with Environmental Design, here with attorney Michael O'Connor. We've both been involved with this project through the planning process. The original design of the wastewater service for this project, which is a self-storage, very low volume wastewater use, located on the east side of Bay Road, near the Duke Drive facility, or Duke Drive Road into Duke Concrete. As we got into construction, O'Connor Brothers are the contractors, site contractors for the project. They had prepared an estimate for the cost of making that connection from, again, a simple office building in one of the storage buildings. And the cost of it didn't seem to make sense in terms of what the volume of flow was, or the expenditure required to make that connection. We inquired with Chris Harrington as to what the process could be to get a waiver from that. He explained that to us. We understand that as the property being part of the district, can seek a waiver, but still would be subject to all the different levies that would be imposed to a user. So the owner certainly is aware of that, but the capital cost of making that connection in the first place, it's about 216 feet from the site to the main, the gravity sewer main, which is on the westerly side of Bay Road. So you'd have to cross under Bay to get that. Directional drilling would be involved. There is also a high volume force main that you would be crossing under to get to the gravity main. The gravity main, my understanding from Chris, is subject to groundwater conditions, so it just adds to the difficulty and the cost of the construction. Long story short, it made more sense to seek the waiver, put a simple on-site system on the property, a septic tank and a single lateral to serve the wastewater needs of the office space, which I can't imagine will even amount to 100 gallons a day. So that's where we stand. Chris was in total support of going through that process, and therefore here we are.
Yeah, so in brief, it is just a self-storage.
Correct.
It doesn't generate a lot of waste.
Correct.
And for you to connect to the waste line going there, because you are in the wastewater district, but it would include very expensive directional drilling or tearing up the road, which is, neither one's really good for something that's going to produce a rather minimal amount of wastewater. Now, you're paying everything that everyone else pays in the district. You're not getting a break there. The only thing we're talking about here is basically getting a break from the cost of connecting to the line.
The initial capital costs of that connection, correct.
The use of the project, which again is a self-storage, is going to be very likely to be a very low producer of any wastewater anyway. Okay. Mike, is there anything you want to add?
No, Dennis did well.
Questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay. So,
seems rather straightforward.
yes. So how about a motion, and you're gonna have to kind of go through approving and Karen? Would alleviate, is reasonable, do they have to go through that?
No, we can take care of that.
Okay.
Pam usually takes care of that.
All right, so is there a motion to approve Bay Road self-storage application for variance request from sanitary sewer connection requirement?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Perone,
Seconded.
seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Roll call vote on this, please.
Councilperson Ferrand?
Yes.
Switzer?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Ackerman?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was easy, huh? All right. The second hearing that we have tonight.
They approved it. They approved it. They approved
So all the provided conditions were part of that resolution, you approved it with
Yeah,
those
approved.
conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's why I asked. All right. All right, the second hearing, Karen,
Sure.
is 3.2.
Hellison's Properties Inc.'s application for variance waiver request for sanitary sewer connection requirements set forth in Town Code Chapter 136 Sewer and Sewage Proposal.
All right. I thought this would be easier to explain with now, George and I were in with Chris Harrington this morning, but the other two members weren't with us. So I'd like to show Jennifer and Catherine what we're talking about. Yeah, Catherine. All right. Then I'll show the public. The piece of property we're talking about is this one. The sewer line, the new one we just put in, goes over to here.
Yep.
There's only a house here. So we're saying you don't have, this house doesn't have to connect. We're, in the future, and we're pretty sure it's gonna be in the near future, that's gonna redevelop, and whatever goes there is gonna connect. But right now, we're giving them a waiver for that, okay? Because there's the house, there's the property, here's the line. Okay?
Billboards.
No bill.
So I was gonna say,
Oh, is there?
didn't Chris say that they were exempt for 18 months to
Yeah,
begin with?
yeah.
So we're giving them 2 years.
We're
Yeah,
giving them
we're
another
giving them
2.
2 years, yeah. All right, so the public, here is our Cary Road Industrial District. It's, the sewer is in, and, now, the piece of property that we're talking about is this piece of property over there. We okay? There's a house located right there. The rest of the property is not developed. The sewer line goes over to here. On this side, here. Joel, we okay? So what we're saying is this house here doesn't have to connect to the sewer for a 2-year period. That we're pretty confident, the way things are moving, and they're moving rather rapidly in the exit 18 area since we redid the zoning, we put in the sewer. Economic development is finally happening there after it's stagnant for many decades. So we're just giving an exemption to this house over here that you don't have to tie into the sewer, at least not now. Okay? All right, that's what we're saying. Halcyon is the owner of the property. Council?
Yeah, at some point, I just have a question about whether you're talking 2-year, 3-year, or indefinite in terms of extension. The resolution provides you with options, and one of them is a 2-year extension, one of them is, one of the conditions is provided that connection must happen within 3 years, and one is just exemption.
My understanding is, good question, is 2 years, and if they want to come back after 2 years and ask for an extension, they're entitled to.
Which makes me think that we should take out the language in the proposed resolution that says no further extensions will be granted. We should delete that, correct?
Well, I assumed council reviewed this before we got it.
We did, but it's legal.
Yeah.
I'm asking you for your policy.
All right, so what?
We don't care.
Is
It's
it
not
the
a legal
understanding of the board that we're giving 2 years of exemption from tying into the sewer? they're paying everything like everybody else in this district, but they just don't have to tie in for 2 years. Is that the understanding?
Yes.
So whatever wording you want to do, council,
Okay.
would appreciate your accommodation.
Mhm.
All right, so while we're on this rewrite and making clear as to what we really meant, we have an agent or the owner, I'm not sure, of, maybe both, of this. And would you please identify yourself and speak to this application?
Yes. May it please the board, Chair, or Town Supervisor Stroh, members of the town board. My name is Neil Leibowitz. I'm the attorney for Halcyon Properties, Inc. I'm also a corporate officer of the corporation. So yes, you do have both here, the principal and their agent. I believe the town supervisor explained the situation fairly well. The property is improved by a one-family house, 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, which has a relatively new septic system on the property on the west side. So under the existing situation, were a tie-in to be mandated, just to be able to run a sewer line to the most efficient spot to tie it in would require an extension of the existing sewer line from its current terminus over 700 feet to get to the westerly side of the house on the property, because the pipes leading out to the septic system and leach field are on the westerly side. It would be an exceptionally expensive proposition under the current use of the property. Wouldn't pay for it.
So, and your understanding is that we're giving you 2 years, and if you wish an extension, you can come back to the board and ask for another 2 years if things don't develop there. But we're hoping that everything develops. Good.
That would be acceptable.
Council, would you explain to the board a little bit on clarity for what you've written there? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. We circled would not in resolved in the resolved paragraph, subparagraph A. We circled would not. We circled in terms of would not be materially detrimental. In subparagraph B, we circled is in front of reasonable, so it is reasonable. We circled would in front of alleviate unnecessary hardship, so it says would alleviate unnecessary hardship. In the first line of the second resolve the Queensbury Town Board hereby, we circled approves. In the third line, we circled grants. In the fourth line, we took out an exemption and circled a 2-year extension of time or until April 1, 2021. And then we deleted 3 lines later the phrase, provided that applicant connect to the West Queensbury Sanitary Sewer District within 3 years and no further extensions will be granted, because you're proposing to give them 2 years, not 3 years, and you're saying they can come back and seek further extension if necessary. That's why we were proposing deletion of that phrase.
Is that language acceptable to the board?
Yeah.
Okay. Any member of the public wish to ask a question about this? Okay, seeing none. Okay, a resolution approving in accord with what council just told us. A motion for that?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Switzer, seconded by
Second.
Councilman Ferrell. Roll call vote on this, please, Karen?
Councilperson Switzer?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Perone?
Yes.
Good luck.
Can
We got a great piece of property there, though.
Thank you.
Yes, council?
I think the town clerk and town council want to make sure we understood the previous resolution,
Right.
Okay.
not this out.
Not this one.
Right.
3.1.
Yeah.
Because that has the same language in it.
Right, but we understood what you were saying on 3.1, excuse me, is that you were going with 3 years and no further extension. Is that correct?
And that, so on the,
No, until the use changes.
No, right. No, that's in there, but
Yeah.
but it's also that they have to connect within 3 years.
No,
No?
no.
Okay, then you're not, then you said the resolution as prepared, the resolution was prepared that way because somebody asked for it to be prepared that way.
No, that's not accurate. It's as
Okay.
long as it maintains the use that it currently is. It
That's why-
maintains its,
That's why we're asking.
okay.
So you want to delete, provided the applicant connect to the Queensbury Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District within 3 years.
Yes, and I will.
And you want to delete,
I will ask the town board to reconsider that, considering the amendments and clarifications. Is that all, council?
we're keeping though, if there's a change in the property use,
Yes,
sale of property and all that, then they have to connect.
that's correct.
Then that would do it.
So, going back to, the 3.1, on the base road self-storage, there was some clarifications made. So I would like to just redo a, to an approval motion, a second, and a vote, based on the clarification.
Yeah,
So-
revised motion.
Who approved and seconded?
George and Catherine.
All right, George and Catherine, are you okay with, your first and
As
second?
amended, yes.
As amended, so
Okay, and another roll call vote, just to be on the safe side?
Councilperson Brown,
Yes.
Switzer,
Yes.
Straugh,
Yeah.
Ackerman.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, council, for catching that. All right, that's it for hearings. Now, we go to resolutions. And I do give you a privilege to the floor. So there are 11 resolutions before us. I say 11 because I'm pulling 5.7. And that's okay with the board. I already talked to them. And that's the resolution authorizing the bid for salt farm modifications. We didn't care for the bids. We're gonna look into what else we can do. We're going to, look into the other salt farms. Because the bid came in as $100,000, 98 something for a salt farm, one. So highway superintendent is agreeing that we should take a look at this a little deeper, and it may be before us in 2 weeks, but for right now, we're gonna pull it. All right, I'm gonna briefly describe each resolution that's before this board tonight and give the public an opportunity to speak to any of the resolutions before this board tonight. Now, if there's another town topic that you wish to speak to the board about, I'm going to give you that opportunity later on in the meeting. But this part of the meeting is just to the resolutions. So 5.1, Karen.
Resolution setting public hearing on proposed local law of 2019 to amend Town Code Chapter 136, Article 24, entitled Establishment of Sewer Rents to update tax map numbers and add property not served by sewer facilities.
All right, when they created Highland Park, Highland Road subdivisions and that whole PUD, they put sewer, the developer put sewer in and everything else. Well, there's a parcel that is stuck way on the end. It's nowhere near the sewer infrastructure. So what we're doing is, it's 75 Overlook Drive. We're giving them permission not to hook up the sewer, and they won't have to pay a sewer rent, and they'll pay a special reduced rate for, I think it's the capital part of it. So this is to do just what I said, to exempt them from the rents, basically. So this is setting a public hearing for April 15th. And that's when we can take public comment on that, if there's any public thoughts on it. Okay. 5.2.
Resolution authorizing agreement between Town of Queensbury and Direct Energy Business, Markney LLC, DBA Direct Energy Business for power sale natural gas through MEGA program.
All right, so this is to purchase natural gas for the town at a rate of about $3.85, or whatever that rate happens to be when I subscribe the agreement, because the resolution says it's got to be fairly close to that or substantially in the form presented. 5.3.
Resolution authorizing award a bid for purchase of pickup truck for town water department.
Okay, the town water department would like to replace its 2008 100,000 plus mile in really poor shape vehicle with a brand new 2019 Ford F-250 XL regular cab pickup truck for an amount not to exceed $26,510.44 from NYE Automotive Group, Oneida, New York. Okay. And also, the truck would need ancillary equipment, so this is for a total amount not to exceed $1,500. So this resolution directs that the town board authorizes and directs the water superintendent to purchase the necessary truck and ancillary equipment. 5.4.
Resolution authorizing purchase of K&M hot patcher for town highway department.
All right, well, highway department's here. I did speak to Dave recently, and this K&M hot patcher, this is a 2-ton. And you know all the potholes we have? Well, if it's a real serious pothole problem, this is going to be a better fix than just taking the cold patch and tamping it down. Am I explaining this okay? So it's $26,401. And to purchase this, 5.5.
Resolution authorizing trade-in and purchase of excavator for town highway department.
Okay, this is to buy a 2019 John Deere 75G excavator. The purchase price is, piggybacking and so forth. It's all purchasing in accord with law, state and local. $113,987 minus the $15,000 we're going to get for our 2001 Hyundai. And it'll give a total purchase to buy this 2019 John Deere 75G excavator for $98,987. Here's a picture of it. It's the largest apparatus that you can buy with rubberized tracks. Am I right? Okay. Joel, you get that? Okay, so that's a resolution to buy that. Resolution 5.6.
Resolution authorizing purchase of 2004 Elgin Pelican street sweeper that has been declared surplus from Village of Lake George for town highway department.
Okay, the Village of Lake George, and there's a letter from David Harrington to Mr. Dool, our highway superintendent, that they have available a 2004 Elgin Pelican rear wheel steer sweeper. It's been declared surplus, and it is available for sale as is. It has about 1,200 hours on the machine, and it needs work, and it has a brake issue. Our folks have gone up there, looked it over, and said, we can fix that with our own people. So we agreed upon a fair price of $15,000, and this is a resolution to go ahead and purchase that street sweeper, which hopefully we'll get that fixed and out in use real quick. All right, 5.7 I pulled, and I explained why. 5.8.
Resolution authorizing transfer of remaining community development block grant funds.
All right, there was $125 left over in block grant fund that wasn't used, and this returns it to the town. 5.9.
Resolution setting hearing concerning unsafe structure located at 454 Bay Road owned by David Lupo.
And this is setting a hearing for April 15th. There's a piece of property on 454 Bay Road. Piece of property owned by David Lupo. Tax map number 296.16-1-12. The garage door is missing. The roof on the south side of the garage is collapsed. It needs to be removed. It is presenting a collapse hazard for anyone entering the property. And Dave Hatton says that this structure is dangerous and unsafe to the general public and would like the town board to authorize certain actions if the owner doesn't come forward and arrange for the boarding up and the removal of the roof. All right, so we're having a public hearing on this April 15th. 5.10.
Resolution authorizing award of bid for Ridge Jenkinsville Maintenance Building Addition Project.
All right, the barn that we've been using for our maintenance is dilapidated. It's also should be condemned probably by Dave Hatton. It's okay, but it doesn't have a long future, and the Park and Rec wants it to be reused. So there is somebody interested in taking it apart and reusing the barn wood and everything else, but they now need additional maintenance space. So they have a new building, and they want to add 1,500 square feet to that building, and they did go out to bid. And the bids came in, the low bidder is for $201,500. And there were two bids. One was from AJ Catalfamo Construction from Hudson Falls at $201,500. That's the low bid. And then Gallo Construction from Waterville came in at $251,000. So others were contacted, and they were too busy or not interested. Catalfamo, Ellsworth, Brondesky, Construct Connect, Roselle, Lucy Brothers, Gallo Construction were all informed of this project and only two bid. And the low bidder, I told you, $201,500. For putting the addition on for our maintenance storage, yes, it will be heated, minimally. 511.
Resolution
Did you have a
authorizing
question
parties to act as.
on that? I'm sorry.
No. Steve said that there was one bid that was late also.
Oh.
Remember, it didn't make the deadline.
Okay. I'm sorry, Karen.
That's okay. Resolution authorizing parties to act as agent with respect to certain town property located on Big Boom Road.
Okay. Now, this is part of a process. Saratoga Hospital wants to locate a medical center near Exit 18, and they would like to buy, or they have purchased, I'm not sure where they are in the process, the building formerly known as Carl R's. Now, there is a piece of property on the east side of Carl R's that belongs to the town of Queensbury. Everyone's always used it for their parking. All right. Down the road, they've shown an interest in purchasing. But this isn't that. This is a resolution just to establish the agent. And they may take it further. They're likely to take it further. But the first step in this process is they have to establish the agent. And so the agent for Saratoga Hospital, who is the applicant, will be Columbia Development and Environmental Design Partnership. And this is just to establish the agent with respect to certain town property located on Big Boom Road. This is saying, okay, we recognize them as the agent. And the last resolution for this evening.
Resolution approving audit of bills warrant of April 2nd, 2018.
Town board has approved the bills before they're paid, and this is a warrant with a run date of March 28th and a payment date of April 2nd, totaling $1,420,038.85. Those are the 11 resolutions before this town board tonight. Anyone wish to speak to any of those resolutions, please indicate your desire to do so, and I'll call you forward. Seeing none. Councilman Ferone, because of his affiliation with the hospital, would like to maintain, I don't think he has to on this one, but he wants to maintain his neutrality basis, if you will, and has asked that 511 be called for a roll call. Okay, is that fair?
Yes.
Do that first.
Yes, we'll do that first, but is there any other resolutions that any of the town board members would like to have roll call vote on? Okay, so let's do that first. So resolution 511.
Resolution authorizing parties to act as agent with respect respect to certain town property located on Big Boom Road, so I need introduction.
Introduced by
So moved.
Councilwoman Switzer,
Seconded.
seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. Roll call vote on 511, please, Karen?
Councilperson Stroud,
Yes?
Atherton.
Yes.
Brown.
Abstain.
Switzer.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes. So now, we have resolutions 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, 5-4, 5-5, 5-6, 5-8, 5-9, 5-10, and 5-12. Anybody like to move those resolutions over for approval? Moved by Councilwoman Atherton,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Switzer. Roll call vote on the remaining resolutions, please.
Councilperson Atherton.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Switzer.
Yes.
Stroud.
Yeah. Any correspondence?
None.
I have to give you yours back.
I have it.
Oh, you
Thank you,
got it?
Catherine gave it to me.
Okay, thank you, Ken. All right, now there's privilege of the floor. Anybody here wish to speak to the town board about any town topic, you are welcome to do so, and you're asked to do so now. Show your indication. Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Hello, I'm Susan Lepore, Lake Sunnyside. Two parts to this. The Queensbury Public Nuisance Law draft. Is this on an agenda yet? And when it is, will it be a workshop? And when will the public be able to comment on it?
The last question, we don't know. The next question is, yeah, it's up for discussion at our next town board workshop, which is next Monday.
Okay.
A little bit, I don't know if it's gonna make any progress or where we're gonna be.
I'm not sure if it's gonna be on the next workshop.
All right, it may not be on the next workshop.
It's
Okay.
with legal counsel to review prior to coming back to the full board. So, once that comes back in some kind of a working form, we'll put it on a workshop so that the whole town board could take a look at it. There's a couple of questions on it still that need to be resolved. And then we'll move forward with it at that time.
And the public finds out when it's on the schedule, how exactly?
Well, if you're watching our agendas, which we do publish on the website and elsewhere,
It'll be there.
it'll be there. Yes,
It'll
so
say public nuisance.
Wednesday, I will put Monday's agenda on. And Councilman Ferone doesn't think that this might not be ripe for discussion at this point in time, so it'll be perhaps on our May workshop. And that seems more likely because that's May 13th. Lucky Monday, May 13th.
Okay. Part two, short-term rentals. Last September, John, you put a committee together to come up with rules and guidelines. There was one meeting in October. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a meeting since then. Why not, and what's being accomplished with that?
Okay, I can have Councilwoman Switzer add, but at this point in time, I think we're looking at the short-term rental as perhaps a situation where you have to get a permit. And the permit is merely to identify contact numbers and maybe signing an understanding of the proper behavior of your tenants, with the hope that the nuisance law being worked on by Councilman Ferone would take care of the other items. So, Councilwoman Switzer?
That's accurate. We're still looking at alternatives. So I'm Dan Baruch from the town of Lake George. They have a short-term rental law. He and I have been going back and forth over the last couple of weeks trying to set a date, but I'm going to meet with him and Doug Frost just to get a better idea. And I had also met with the Warren County Treasurer too to get an idea of what kind of information and what kind of help they could be from us. But at this point, Supervisor Stroud is right and is accurate as far as the direction that we're heading in for short-term rentals. So as soon as we, I get a little bit more information maybe from Dan, and then we see what the nuisance law finally entails, again, we're hoping that that will take care of most of the issues so that we won't have to have this big, complicated short-term rental law at that point. Or not even a law, maybe a regulation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I didn't, can you tell me your last name? I didn't hear you.
Leporin,
Could you spell
Leporin.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to the town board about any town topic? Even Highway Superintendent David Dool.
David Dole, Highway Superintendent, Town of Queensbury. I'd like to thank this board for approving our request for our equipment that we put in for. I think you really see the need that we have for this equipment, you know, to get our repairs done. This winter was brutal for this region. You know, the rainstorms that we had, excuse me, you know, the ice that we had, as I said, the rain as well. I'd rather have a foot snowstorm, you know, than an inch of rain. It just wreaks havoc on our roads. You know, it gets down into the cracks, the joints. It freezes. It causes many potholes that we've had, you know, this season. That's why we put in for the reclaimer that will reclaim actually asphalt that we have and turn that into a pliable mix rather than the coal mix that you mentioned. You know, the coal mix, we put it in the potholes, and you know, when the water gets in there, and it just chews them right up within days. You know, that is a very much needed machine. We had one years ago. It was old, and I feel it's time that we purchase a new one, as well as the excavator. You know, we have an older loader. I have many drainage projects to do this year. Flooding, you know, we had many calls on flooding. This excavator will certainly help us out, you know, with shoulder work, drainage, things like that, as well as a sweeper. You know, as I mentioned, the ice storms, we had to go out and sand. It seemed like every other day we were out sanding. And, you know, public safety, we got to put material on the road. Now we got to pick it up. And it's a process. So we have 3 machines now. This will be a 4th. And we greatly appreciate you supporting us in these purchases.
And better to have it in hand than somewhere in time.
There you go, John. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank Deputy Superintendent Mark Benware for being here as well. Anybody else? Okay. Town board discussions. Let's start with Catherine.
Okay, I have 2, excuse me, I do have a cold. I have 2 environmental films of interest. One is in the Tri-County New York transition in collaboration with the library, which is called In the Public Interest. I know I've spoken about these before. The next film is on April the 8th. It's Rancher, Farmer, Fisherman. It's at 6:30 p.m. in the community room. And the description is from the Montana Rockies to the Kansas wheat fields and the Gulf of Mexico. Families who work the land and sea are crossing political divides to find unexpected ways to protect the natural resources vital to their livelihoods in the nation. Discussion will follow. The second one is in a series that's being done by the local Unitarian Universalist Church on Weeks Road. That's 7 p.m. on Friday. This will be the second one. This is called, this is by a documentary about the poet laureate W.S. Merwin, who actually recently passed. It's called Even Though the Whole World is Burning, and it's an intimate portrait of him, and he's also a poet, and he's an environmental activist. He's often been called the national treasure. It offers important insights for an era marked by environmental degradation, human disconnect with natural processes, and rapid climate change. And again, that's at 7 p.m. at the UU Church this Friday. Thanks.
At the end of Weeks Road.
At the end of the
Arrive as far as you can.
Right
Weeks
as far
Road,
as
you're
you
there.
can, turn right.
Okay. That's it, Catherine?
Yes.
Thank you. George?
I don't have much. I will note that they're working on putting in the signal light on Aviation Road by Cottage Hill. They were there last week. They put the cement posts in the ground, so I guess they're just waiting for the actual
Must be
poles
they
in there.
finally got those poles.
I think so. Yeah, they have grounded the line across, you know, to run the electric and all of that. So I'm waiting for them to come back and finish the job.
Yeah. Well, and I was in high school for a Warren County Historical Society debate, and they're redoing that whole inside.
I know, yeah.
So we'll get the final tour, I'm sure, at some point.
I think we have a connection there.
You may.
So, yeah, so, you know, once this is all completed with the new access and the new parking areas, I think everyone will say, you know, we did everything right.
Yeah. I think the only other thing I would say is, and I know we sit up here a lot of times and throw kudos at our highway department, but, you know, it was a rough winter. They did a great job, and now they get to work on all the holes that are out there.
That's right.
But you gotta have the equipment to do the job right, so.
At least we're not alone.
Right.
Yeah, that was good. I'm glad you said that. Jennifer?
I have one item. The American Red Cross on Saturday, May 4th is going to be installing free smoke alarms in our area. Right now, they're looking for volunteers who might help with this process. It can be coworkers, it can be family, it can be friends. But if you're also interested in receiving a free smoke alarm, you can go online to soundthealarm, it's all one word, .org/ENY, or call 518-694-5121. I spoke with someone from the American Red Cross just today who stopped by, and they already have 300 volunteers signed up. So they'll obviously take more, but for those people also interested in smoke alarms, give them a call, and they'll be arriving at your home that Saturday, May 4th. If they can't get all of them done, they'll certainly come back and make sure everyone that's asked for one will receive one. And that's all I have.
All right, great, Jen. Thank you. All right, mine will be quick. What did I do since the last town board meeting? In the brief form, met up with the Saga City College students. They came here to the town to visit. Now, I did tell you about another occasion where we had a speech to the Saga City College students, and I tried my Japanese, and it went over with very mixed results. In any event, they were here to visit me, and it was primarily in English, and I explained the history of the town and the relationship, the strong relationship between the town and the city. And we had a very good time, and I gave out gifts, and thanks to the Park and Rec and Victoria, my assistant, helped put those together. And I also gave them the little cues from Queensbury, pins for their lapels or whatever, and had a very good time with the students here. Memorial Day, Parade Committee meeting, another one. Sat down with Cost Control Associates. They wanted to know what we want to do with the inventory of stormwater devices and the management schedule of those stormwater devices. And so, you know, that's a huge project. I've talked to Dave and Mark about it, and it's a huge project. It has to be done at some point, but what are we dealing? So Cost Control Associates said, can we just take a little bitty part of town, like the west side of Bay Road, where there are new neighborhoods and older neighborhoods, to see, you know, what the problems are. So I think that was a good idea, so we may start with that. Eric Gilbert came in. He's the president, or former president, of the Great Escape, and introduced the new Great Escape president, Rebecca, or Becky Wood. And we know Rebecca because she has been the market manager for the facility for a long time and did a great job. So she's going to do a great job as the new president. I met with Dave Matthews. He's putting together a biking magazine, a local one, and he wanted to know about Rush Pond, Halfway Brook Trail, and the other trails, and how we're interconnecting them. And so I spoke to that and had a map, and George Hilton helped me with that, so I want to thank him. Went to the Glens Falls basketball game. It was really one of the most thrilling experiences, and it shows you the great value of the Civic Center to this greater community. And right after that basketball game, and my spirits were up and everything else, but even further heightened by a St. Mary's annual gala honoring Ed Bartholomew, who is well deserved for everything he's done for this community as an attorney, as the mayor, and continuing to work with all of Warren County for economic development. An outstanding person, well deserving of the honor. Then I started working on small cell regs. I'm not going to go through that day after day. Small cell regs, everything else got backed up. My desk is a mess. But I finally drafted what I think are small cell regs to the point where the town board's now evaluating, legal counsel's evaluating, Craig Brown, zoning administrator's evaluating. On Wednesday, March 27th, with Mark and David and with Sean Doty of Chazen, we went to Garrison Road to assess some of the drainage issues. And I say issues, there are things happening along Garrison Road that aren't quite right, and we're going to try and get to the bottom of it and find out what's happening and what can we do to fix it. So there's where we are. We're doing a little research on it now. And then Friday was a big day. You know, Lee Brown calling hours, Chet South calling hours. Went to the West Glens Falls EMS annual banquet at Longfellows. It was very nice. And again, going to this banquet reminds me to thank our volunteers for everything they do, all the free time that they give to our community, and they just need a big, big thank you. Saturday, Warren County Historical Society had their annual debate at Queensbury High School, under construction. We found a room that was nicely redone and had the debate. It was very nice. Sunday was the Shamrock Shuffle. Today we did site visits for the septic variance applicants, and we have a town board meeting, and that's it for me. I cut that short. Is that better? All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Motion to adjourn? Or before we do, I'd like to thank Deputy Town Clerk Karen O'Brien, Town Council Mark Shatner, Joel Barlow, Kathleen Moore from the Post-Star, and the public. Thank you for coming. And the town board, thank you for all you do. And our sponsor, StoreTech, one of our sponsors, especially StoreTech, I'd like to thank. All right. Now, motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilwoman Switzer, seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. We're adjourned.
The following program is underwritten by the generous support of Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan Insurance. Since 1852, they have been assisting both businesses and individuals across the country secure the most comprehensive insurance products available. Associates of Glens Falls and Loomis and Lipan are one of New York's largest independently owned insurance agencies. Public affairs programming on Look TV is underwritten by the generous support of Pinnell's Restaurant, classic Italian-American food since 1922, and StoreTech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. StoreTech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY Signs on Air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's Restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable home-like setting where everyone is welcome. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.